I use Antigravity to turn this website into this website in 3 hours for absolutely free. Let me show you how. So if you're watching this, you probably have an amazing idea for an app or a website, but you've been stuck because you aren't a coder. Or you've been using AI builder apps and paying hundreds of dollars after you reach their quota limits. That stops today. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to use Google's new AI editor called Antigravity. It's completely free and designed in a way that lets anyone, even if you never touched a keyboard in your life, build software just by asking for it. This video is designed for people specifically that are complete beginners in programming and building anything with AI. This is not for people that want to get deep into all the different functionality of Antigravity. I'm going to walk you through every single step so you can start making super cool apps like this in a matter of minutes. All right, so first we're going to want to download Antigravity. To do that, let's just literally search up Google Antigravity, and we should be able to pull it up. So, depending on which computer you have, you're gonna either download Windows or Apple. I have Windows, and they also have dark mode on, which is why the screen looks so weird. So I'm gonna turn that off. So go ahead and download whatever version you have, and then that should take a couple more minutes. I'll be back once it's ready. All right, so we just finished downloading. Let's go ahead and go through all of these steps, get a file in there, and then should be all set. Finally done, took a couple of minutes, but we are there. So let's go in and check it out. So we're finally in Antigravity, so we're gonna go ahead and create a new folder. So you could see here, there's an option to open folder, but probably starting from scratch. So let's create a Java project. So once we do that, we're just gonna go, cold turkey and select a project location where you want your folder stored. And I'll explain later why you need all this, but I'm gonna just go ahead and, say this is fine. Let's do a demo for the name, and then we are in. And yes, you do want to trust the authors. Cool. So you get some default folders here: README, source, library, and VS Code. So what Antigravity is an IDE, which is an integrated development environment. So think of it as like your Google Docs for code, if that makes sense. And this app, it lives on your desktop. It's not a website. So before we dive into how to use this IDE and what all the different parts mean, first, let's build the prototype for the website that we're making. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and go to Gemini, Google, and I'm gonna turn on the canvas mode. So you should be able to access this under the free plan. I have the pro plan just because I've been using it a lot, but it works just as well there. It's just you get less tokens to work with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share the exact website that we are going to be working with, and also pretty, specific prompt to what we wanna do with it. So give me a second and I'll share what I've come up with. Okay, so I finished making my prompt. Basically, my client, he runs an ad agency, and his company is called Evergreens Ads. So I want to play off that theme and create like an Evergreens immersive experience that follows whichever season we currently are in, and just makes a beautiful kind of scenery that still is within scope and focusing on his core services. So that's what I wrote up here. And yeah, I'm gonna select Think with 3 Pro because that will make it work harder as opposed to faster. And again, make sure you have Canvas selected because then it will create like a visual demo for you. And I'm gonna go ahead and send this. So first you're gonna see that it's building out the code. And really soon here, you're gonna see a preview of what the actual mockup looks like. All right, so we have our site that is ready, and here is what it looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I could grab a link to see the full website. Okay, so right now it's December, so it had some snow particles in the background, growth that endures, strategic leadership coaching for founders who want to build a legacy without losing their soul, got a nature built for the long haul. So it did miss the copy because Nick does have a marketing agency. He's not a coach. So that is an inconsistency there. It looks like we're also missing the media assets. So, I'm gonna have to just put those in separately, which is not a big deal. It did get a decent amount of the previous website scraped. So just so you remember what that looks like. So this is the current website that Nick uses. It's pretty good, just your standard landing page, has all the key details for someone to decide if they want to work with them. But obviously we're trying to spice it up and make it really cool. So that's what we're gonna do. So again, the first iteration of this isn't horrible. Let's keep working on this. And again, the reason we're working on this in Gemini on the web instead of Antigravity is because Antigravity does start adding a bit of a layer of complexity, but that's where we really polish it up and get this from a mock-up to a functional website to which users can go to and book a call, in this case with Nick. So I'm gonna download all the assets from his current site. That way, I could upload it into the current mockup so we could see what it looks like. All right, so there are 4 main images, and then we also have the logo here that we're gonna copy. So for the copy, I'm gonna go ahead and try the Gemini helper to see if we could scrape the website. Can you scrape the website for copy? Come on, I don't know how to spell. Okay. So you can see here, it has the current tab as context, and I want to see if it could just go through the whole site, click around the testimonials. All right, so we have this part, hero section. We got this part, testimonials, boom. So that's everything we need. And they even got all those testimonials. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy all this and put it into our Gemini tool because it looks like it did not fully capture the copy, which is fine. Next iteration we'll get that sorted out. We also probably want to get the color schemes here, so can you also get me all the colors, all the brand colors? So again, it's going to go back into the code structure of the site and probably pick out all the hex code HTML elements that are currently here. So I'm going to grab those as well. So, currently Gemini isn't good enough to do this in one go, but it is good enough to deal with the helper. So that's good to know. Here are the brand colors. So I'm actually giving it multiple things to work on at once just because it'll be able to, push those out as separate tasks. Also, I need a more immersive. So yeah, I gave it all the copy, I gave it all the right brand colors, and I also asked it to give me more of a scenic view because right now it just, has snow falling for winter and probably I think leaves for fall, so I want there to be more things going on. Let's make it look better. And then next go, we'll probably add in the images that we just downloaded. Okay, so here's the second iteration. I think we went a bit downhill. I don't really like the design of this. It looks kind of crappier. We do have the brand colors now, so that's good. So yeah, I'm not really happy with this hero section. What did it do? That's bad. What I'm gonna try to do is use the helper to give me a better prompt of what I want. All right, so I'm gonna use a prompt that I got from the helper, see if that makes it better. I basically gave it what I gave to the main Gemini tool and said make it a better prompt. So we're gonna try doing that after I see this preview. Still looks really bad. Oh wait, it's reloading. Okay, now we're getting there a little bit. Let's see what this does. Now we're talking. This looks freaking sick. Still a couple changes that I would do, but this is definitely getting really sexy. So it looks like when you click let's connect, it goes down and you could send a message. We have the testimonial section, and we have, Nick's note that he had in his previous site. So this is really good. Let's see what different seasons look like. Okay, so, not bad. This is a really good starting point to start putting into Antigravity. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click share, copy contents, and then go into Antigravity, into that new site that we just set up. So we're back in our demo project, and I think we're ready to start using this platform. So first thing we're gonna do is on the very right, we have an agent. I'm gonna just paste the code we just had and say create a starting point with this website. All right, so that's 600 lines of code, just plopped it right in there. And I'm gonna go ahead and let it do its thing. So while it's doing that, I'm gonna show you in the bottom the 2 conversation modes you have. One is fast, and that's just to have it build like as it goes. And then planning is actually gonna be a 2-step process where it's gonna confirm what it wants to do, and then you say yay or nay. So right now we're in fast mode, so it's gonna just start making shit happen. Generally, you're gonna want to click accept for anything it does. Because you're starting from scratch, there's not much that you could mess up. Looks like right now it's downloading all the essential things that it needs to run correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and let it do all that. So far, pretty simple. Here's all the models that you could currently use. Whenever you run out of Gemini, you could start going to Claude or GPT. Gemini has been the best one to use by far. And then here on the left, I'm gonna start explaining what all this stuff means. So here in our demo project, it's starting to write up the folders and the code that we need to run this whole site. It might look a little complex, but you literally do not need to know how anything works, especially if you're building, a bit simpler projects like just trying to host a website where people can, send you a message. That does not require too much understanding of the back end. All you need to know is how to use this damn tool, and that's what we're gonna be doing today. So, I'm gonna let it finish up what it's working, and then I'm gonna walk you through the other parts of using this app. So as it's installing all these files, they're all gonna go into this project folder that we created. And you literally are able to find this if you just go into your project explorer. I believe I was in here. I think we're project C, users, David, demo. So this is where all of these files live that it's currently building out. So as it's making changes, you'll notice that it starts showing you this section here. Basically, every time a new change is made, you can review all the changes and either reject or accept them. So I'm gonna go ahead and accept it because, I am hoping that it knows what it's doing. So in more complex app integrations, and when you're doing actual engineering work, not just vibe coding, these parts are going to be very critical where you actually know what's going on, and it's making the changes it should. Because we are doing a simple project, there's not much that could go wrong, especially because we don't have any serious API connections, and there's no data breaching possibilities. We're literally just building a pretty landing page, so not much could go wrong here. So it looks like it set up a local host with an extension, and what a local host is a way to host the code content directly on your site for a short period of time for development. So no one else can see this but you, and that just helps you, kind of work through the site and make sure that it does what you want it to do. All right, so now the local server is active. So now you can literally go to this URL on any Chrome browser, and it will show you what the site looks like. So yeah, pretty neat. And from here, the workflow is actually be very similar to any AI code building tools that you use. It's just getting to this part was where it was a little difficult. But from here, if we want to keep working on this, and if we say let's make the scene more dimensional and have a bit better kind of depth and just more visually appealing, we could start working on that. So before I do that though, I do want to add in the images that we downloaded. So what I'm gonna do is literally find those files and put them in here, add those files to the site and store them in my folder. So it's literally like, I just gave it all the images and it's gonna figure out what, like who's who. Let's see if it gets it right. All right, so it looks like the logo got replaced, which is nice. It accurately determined who Nick is, and then it put in the client testimonial images as well. So that part is good. It looks like we still need to update the logo on the top left. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask it to do that. Make sure you always accept all changes here. That way, you know, it gets updated in the files. So the green here is the new changes added, so that, you know, if I click reject, it's not gonna show the images anymore. So we're gonna accept all and then keep on working on this website. So let's replace the top left. So I'm gonna go through a couple more iterations, but the workflow is gonna be very similar where, you know, you're asking it what you want it to do, you're accepting all the changes, you're saying, you know, continue, and then you're checking to see what it did and just keep iterating. Again, this workflow is ideal for early beginners that are just trying to make something very simple. If you are doing more complex projects that require more sensitive data, then this is not good. You need to understand what's going on. I'm just showing you that, you know, to build a simple like app or website that you would in Replit, you could 100% use Antigravity and do it for much cheaper. So let me show you what I cook up. Give me some time. All right, so I just spent around 2 more hours finalizing everything, so around 3 hours total. And let me show you what I built. I am really happy with this. So, you know, we have that hero section where we're showing the changing of the seasons while the trees are staying the same, just to like push that evergreen kind of branding. And then, you know, it's a fun animation. I optimized both mobile and desktop. So, you know, so that's like, you know, a nice little touch there. And then as we scroll down, we have basically the same copy as the original website, but now it's a lot cleaner. We have better typography. We have more interactive buttons. And then also the testimonial section is a nice, fun carousel. And we have all the media loaded in. And then also down here, users can submit a form, put in their website, tell them, you know, what the biggest problem is, and then when they send it, there's another fun animation there. And I actually made sure that those forms come through in the back end to the emails that are set up. So I think this one didn't send in particular because I already used that email. Let me try again. Refresh this local server. Let's try different email. Okay, that should go through. Just worked 9 minutes ago, so I'm not sure. I'll have to troubleshoot again. But basically there's this app called Forbes Submit, and you literally do not need to set up anything. You just ask the LLM to use this and it will send emails once you get leads. So this is a very easy, scrappy way to like collect lead forms without having to do any crazy setups. So I'm gonna ask the LLM why. So this is one of the biggest takeaways is if you're building a landing page or a website and you need to collect leads, use Form Submit because it's really easy to set up. I use it for my own site. And then I'll go over the 2 other big takeaways I had in those 2 hours that I was building that helped me get to that final product. So yeah, it looks like we're just having some issues with error handlings. So while it fixes that, I'll share the other 2 things. So one is this Gemini helper tool has been super important with just iterating. Like this really looked bad for a while, and I'll probably share, the screen recording of the iterative process, but this looked like horrific for the very beginning parts of it. And then the only time it really started looking good is when I really asked this helper to, 1, like see what I'm working on, and 2, like create a prompt for Antigravity to help make it better. So core things that it helped do is add a bit more asymmetry, and then like add a bit more like detail and variation. That way it wasn't too geometric. It is geometric shapes that we're working with here, but because there's enough variation, I think it works really well. So that's been really crucial. Same thing with the this testimonial carousel. That's the work of this helper helping me help itself, I guess, because it's all the same ecosystem. Antigravity has an open agent manager. When you go onto this, you basically could have multiple LLM chats with agents in this inbox, and you could basically do, they say up to 5 synchronous tasks at the same time. And then, like when you start a chat, okay, well now it wants to. Sometimes, so if Antigravity gets slow, you either want to start a new chat with the agent or you want to just completely reload the whole app. So let's see if that helped. Also, by the 2 hours, I used up all my Gemini credits, so I had to switch to Sonnet, which isn't bad. It's actually, pretty decent. I would say by the end, Gemini got really slow, and Claude, once I switched to Claude, it actually was a lot quicker. So it looks like it said it fixed the problem. So let's try submitting the form again. It's interesting that our local server's still up. I don't know if that, because usually when you leave the app, like when you leave Antigravity, the local server needs to be reset again, but it looks like we're still up, so that's nice. So I'm gonna submit a form, see if it goes through. Right now this is like a local server. Once we push to production, it'll work a similar way where someone fills out the form, it gets sent to developer email, and then also Nick is CC'd. So Nick just got a bunch of spam from me, but hopefully he understands if he likes the site that I built. Now we're at a stage where, we like what we built, everything looks awesome, and now we could talk about the next step, because this isn't a published website. It still needs to somehow be placed into like an online server so everyone else can see it live, and it does not need to run on your computer 24/7. So that's why we need to talk about the next step, which is working with Git. So if you look here on the right, source control, what is source control, right? So this helps you save your work and basically put checkpoints as you build the app, right? So in a more developed environment, I guess, where big teams are working together, we have the main branch, which has all of the current code that is up to date, like the newest version. And then there might be multiple developers working on the same code, but they take copies of it and they make small adjustments. And then they, push it back to the main branch for others to review, and then once it's good, it's merged into the main branch. So that's like the general gist of like iteration in programming. Here it's not as necessary, but still important to understand the concept of Git. Git is version control, and GitHub is a place for that version control to live online, right? So we need to publish this to GitHub, because once we publish it to GitHub, we could use a platform like Vercel to host that code in the online server, right? So again, GitHub is going to just store all this code that we have in our computer. It's going to store it online. And then that code needs to be ran similar to how we ran a local server in this environment. It needs to be ran in an online server for everyone to be able to visit, right? So once that's done, you could connect your domain that you own to that. So, if Nick likes what I built, he would take evergreenads.co and, we would set up the name, we would set up the DNS settings, and then eventually we could host it on Vercel. And all of this is for free. That's the wild thing. Once you get over this small technical hurdle of just learning how to use this platform, you're going to be able to build some really awesome things and pay very little to do it. That's what I think is the coolest part about all of this. So let's go ahead and do all that. If you don't have a GitHub account, get one. Again, all of this is pretty free. So I'm already connected. So I'm going to publish it to my GitHub private repository, because if you make it public, everyone else is going to be able to see what you've done. So, again, depending on what you're building, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. So it's going to walk you through the whole process, right? So it went into my account and it created this demo project. And this is all the code that we had as we were building the website. So that's in there, and that was pretty quick, right? And then what we want to do next is go to Vercel, and then I'm going to add a new project, and then import from Git repository. Boom, the demo we just built. And then here, it's going to auto-select the right framework for you. And then we just deploy this sucker. All right, so we just deployed. What that means is Vercel, which is server hosting platform, it connected to GitHub and it pulled all the code. And now we should be able to see it in the preview URL. So we have a demo eta-livid.vercel app. So this is where this now lives. So this is what I could send to Nick to review see if he likes it. And then I'll also show you that it should work on your phone. So I'm gonna pull up my phone here. Because remember, when we built the website, we made sure to check it in mobile as well. So here you go. I went on that same link and it works just great. And then I'll also show you really quickly how to do the mobile optimization. So first, I always start with the desktop version, but then once I like how desktop looks, then I optimize mobile. And the way I do that is I go to inspect, and then I click dimensions, iPhone 14 Pro, and I'm still in the local server. So as I'm seeing the things I want to fix and things I want to iterate on, I just either send screenshots or I explain the different elements that I want fixed. Like for example, this caret, before it was too big and the text behind it was hard to see, so that was a small adjustment I had to do. This was completely screwed up, so I had to ask it to move around the elements and adjust them quite a bit. But yeah, overall, we're pretty much done. The only thing left is to connect the actual domain, but that is really simple. You just click to domains and add domain, and it will walk you through everything. So yeah, anyways, I hope this is thorough enough where you could feel ready to just go into Antigravity and just start playing around with it. I did not share all the features of Antigravity because that tool and IDEs in general, they could be used in multiple magnitudes, right? This is just the first step of, hey, stop using the easy plug and play AI builders and actually go use a robust and higher caliber tool that is a bit more complex, but will get you a lot better results and for a lot better price. Right now I am capped out with my Gemini 3 Pro credits, but it resets in 4 hours. So if you're working hard on it throughout the day and let's say it's 3 p.m. At 7, 8 p.m. you could go straight into it, and it just resets your tokens. You don't have to buy anything. So it's just a no-brainer and like a really useful skill for most people to learn. So definitely I suggest investing in it. So yeah, look at what we just built. Just 3 hours ago, this was a blank screen. We had absolutely nothing, just the original site to go off of. We never even got any assets. We literally scraped all the existing media and copy from the original site. So this could be a service that someone goes and runs like, hey, I already built a new site for you. You don't even have to do anything, just pay me. So yeah, a lot of cool things that could be done here. And the way we built it was we just acted as a project manager, let Google's AI handle all the heavy lifting. We literally had the helper tool write out prompts for the anti-gravity agent to go and implement. We also had multiple anti-gravity agents working together to complete the final result. So definitely, this is a nice next level to AI building. And the reason this is such a big deal is Google is giving away all of this for free. While other tools like Cursor and Replit charge monthly fees, Google owns the entire stack, cloud, the model, and the editor. So they can afford to let us use this supercomputer for $0. So don't just watch this video and move on. Download Antigravity while it's still free in preview phase and build something amazing, okay? I put the download link right in top of the description. If you want to master how to use AI to the best of its capacity, hit that subscribe button because I'm gonna keep releasing videos just like this. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next build.